Excited to have everyone here talking sponsored display and how to, immediately drive some profits on your business. I'll give a brief introduction of myself and Perpetua, and then Aaron will definitely introduce himself and Amazing. So I'm Joe from Perpetua. Perpetua is a software platform for all things Amazon advertising. What we've built is a tool that's got some super simple levers to pull, but doesn't sacrifice any strategic abilities for you. And so you can use Perpetua software to help manage and optimize your ad spend and really give you superpowers on everything that you do for Amazon. And so I've been working with a lot of our strategic brand partners, some of our strategic agency partners, working to onboard them onto Perpetua, make sure that they're really getting awesome results right off the bat, and lots to share about what I've heard from sponsored display so far. But that's it for me. Aaron.
Cool. So yeah, I'm Aaron. I own Amazing. I'm the founder there, and we are a full service Amazon PPC agency. That's all we focus on. We don't do anything else except PPC. And with that being said, we specifically cater to like those private label Amazon sellers who are between 6 to 8 figures per year. That's kind of like our bread and butter. And more so those that are really focused on growth while still staying profitable. And I've been doing this full time for about 3 years now, but I've been in the digital advertising space for about 9 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What was the first thing you ever did in digital advertising?
It was a Facebook ad for one of those like Roomba vacuums. Those like automated ones. We're like, what is this? It's like 9 years ago.
Love it. Yeah, iRobot. Yeah, I know exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Let's jump into it. So first and foremost, I think this is a great starting point. Is like when you're looking at the full funnel of Amazon advertising and you see all the different ad units that are available. I'm going to be completely honest with everyone. I feel like a lot of onboarding calls that I've had and people who have been evaluating sponsored display off the bat, they've kind of given it a bad rap to begin with. I might talk to some of our smaller clients who say, hey, I'm not ready for sponsored display yet because I'm not ready to start spending at a lower A cost than all of my other ads. So there's an inherent bias there that maybe you can't be that successful with sponsored display off the bat. And then I'll talk to a lot of our larger clients as well that would say, hey, with the amount of money I'm spending on DSP, why would I be leveraging sponsored display? It makes no sense. And I think, definitely what we're going to get into today is that no matter who you are as a seller, as a brand, sponsored display fits into your ad strategy 100%. It's not going to be the exact same execution for everyone, but certainly sponsored display plays a role for everyone. I think that's what we're going to immediately dive into, talk about how it exactly fits in with a definite specific focus on product targeting, because that's where there's a lot of exciting action at. We definitely find executing product targeting for sponsored display efficiently is the single most assured way to ensure that you're getting above the fold placement on a product detail page. So we definitely want to jump into that. Aaron, you've got some amazing strategies that you use to execute for your clients to make sure that the results are awesome. And then certainly we want to dig on that. I'll ask you lots of questions as we're going through it.
Cool.
So yeah, like why don't you share a little bit more about, exactly what sponsored display is, how to get it up and running, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So sponsored display, like what we're talking about is through the Seller Central platform. Also through AMS, you can do it as well, but it's what appears right here at the bottom right of your screen, that little box right there where it's like a red box. So that's a sponsored display ad. And there's a few other places where it appears, but that's like the most area where it appears. And it's been around for years. And within Seller Central, it'll say like, it's on the right-hand side. If you can click to the next slide, it's on the right-hand side. This is it right here. It says beta. It's been here for years, but up until recently, you haven't been able to target specific ASINs through Seller Central. And now you have the abilities right here. It says product targeting. And that's what's so new about it. I think it was launched within the past 8 months, and not a lot of people know about this. People mostly know about the audience targeting. And the reason why we're jumping on this webinar right now is because there's such a big difference. Like with the audience targeting, we were just not seeing great results. If you can go to the next slide. This is like an example of one account before product targeting and after. And before, we tested it out. A lot of Amazon reps pushed us to test it out. And, it was very incremental return on investment. I'm sure that if you had all the time in the world, all the resources in the world, and you finely tune it, you can make some profitable sales from it. Mm-hmm. But not everyone has that kind of time and resources. So just for us, we just didn't see great results for it. So we pretty much discontinued it. However, like I said, within the past 8 months, product targeting or ASIN targeting just launched, and we tested that out, and we just seen incredible results. And so that's why we want to jump on this webinar. Here's just one example of like just sales just skyrocketed where ACoS just remained low. And of course, everyone has their own ACoS target.
Yeah. Well, maybe definitely say a little bit more on the retargeting piece of it, because, you know, retargeting definitely fits into the sponsor display equation, but maybe speak a bit more into what the limitations are with retargeting and why you've had such a strong focus on product targeting.
Yeah, so retargeting was actually what geeked me out first about the whole sponsored display, because from my background, I came from doing like Google Ads, display, and remarketing on that, or retargeting was just what always drove the best ROI for display, at least. And so I was super excited about this. But when I tested it for Amazon, it's like, yeah, we were able to drive some profitable sales, like I said, but just like because Amazon doesn't allow right now like bulk file uploads, you have to do everything through Seller Central. It's just very tedious, and it just wasn't worth the time put into it. I mean, hypothetically, it should do awesome because it's like you're remarketing to hot leads, people who looked at your product, and it should do really well. And so I think that eventually it will get a lot better, and it will be a must have. But I just think for right now, for the person who's strapped for time and resources, I just don't think that it's just the best thing to go to right now. Maybe like phase 2, phase 3, but I don't think right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely find that, you know, sharing that sentiment a little bit, we find with a lot of our clients that may be already running ads through the DSP, that the retargeting capabilities on the DSP would negate any need to maybe be running those ads through sponsored display retargeting. Obviously, the notion of retargeting in general is super impactful, especially depending on the type of product that you're selling. If you're selling a product with extremely long purchase cycles, or maybe they need to interact with your product 5, 10 or more times, maybe it's a high ticket priced item that you're selling, retargeting plays a really big role. And in those cases, we may be more bullish. We may see better results in the long run. But then definitely, you know, with other products, you know, you might be hurt by the fact that you can't necessarily even quickly identify who then has bought your product and make sure that you're not targeting them. So a lot of limitations on it. If you're strapped for cash, like you said, smaller budgets, maybe right off the bat, it doesn't mean the right thing to get up and running. But definitely, like you said, product targeting is, no matter what your budget is, product targeting seems to be incredible.
Crushes it, yeah.
And yeah, like look at these. This was some of the results from one of your clients, right?
Yeah. So I signed this one client, and when we first start, we just launch a number of different campaigns, and I wanted to test out like the difference between targeting the same ASINs versus sponsored product ads versus sponsored display ads. And no, I took the screenshot like within I think like the first week of running the ads. That's why the ACoS is so high. But what was interesting though was that the cost per click was just significantly higher from sponsored products compared to sponsored display. You can't see the sponsored display cost per click on the screen share right now. Like I can't see it right now, Joe, but that's fine. I think it was like 34 cents or something like that.
29 cents for anyone who maybe can't see on the screen. Yeah, 29 cents and a 37% ACoS.
Yeah, so significantly lower cost per click compared to sponsored products, which results usually in like a significantly lower ACoS. So I think that because product targeting is so brand new, not a lot of other brands are using it right now. Like I wrote a post about this. I think I had like now 6 sales calls within the past week, and all 6 of them, none of them were running sponsored display ads.
Wow.
So this is just huge. So there's a huge potential in this untapped type of way to advertise. And because of that, the cost per click is just significantly lower.
Yeah. I mean, like the way that when I see results like this, and I think about just the structure of the way that sponsored display product targeting works in comparison to ASIN targeting through a PAC campaign on sponsored products. Like this is like a magic ad unit. I mean, you're getting better placement. You're getting above the fold placement. and comparing that to below the fold placement for sponsored products. And it's often the case that you're getting a lower cost per click and a better ACoS, which is crazy. I mean, that's like, to me, it's almost like comparing it to the idea that if you were running a keyword campaign and all of a sudden the cost per click for top of search placement was less than the cost per click on the bottom of page one.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. What do you think? By the way, we had a question come in asking about which ASINs to be targeted, which we're going to jump into all the different ASINs that you're targeting. So we're definitely going to get to that. But staying on this is like, seems to be a massive first mover advantage right now. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And like any new thing, eventually the wave catches up, right? So, but right now we're just still seeing the wave is still so far behind. So I just jump on this as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Makes sense.
Oh yeah. So here's one good example of, so like, because the cost per click is so low, a lot of people who are tuning in right now, they may find that, or at least we do, that certain SKUs perform very well from sponsored, from Amazon PPC, and other ones don't. It's usually the better the SKU performs organically, it's highly correlated with, it'll also do well through advertisements. So, you know, those that don't do well typically have high ACoS. It just doesn't sell well. And so because of that, we typically don't advertise those products. It's pretty much just burning cash. However, sponsored display is pretty unique. This is one example where, this is a screenshot of a SKU that just wasn't a high performer. And over time, we kept trying different methods to advertise it, and we just couldn't get it profitable. So eventually, like, we just stopped. And then because sponsored display was just crushing it across the board, we were like, I wonder if this SKU that just doesn't do well through ads would do well with this new placement, because the cost per click is so low. And so that's where it is right here in July, is where, yeah, we were right. Like, finally, like, we were able to start driving sales for this new SKU just because of this placement is just completely untapped. So I don't think that, I don't like, I think that this means more than just like, oh, driving more sales for your existing SKUs. This is finally the opportunity where you can start growing some of those sales for your lesser SKUs and really growing your market share.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. So like, let's get right into the, the targeting tactics. So like, talk about your, a little bit of an overview as to how you split it up between defense, offense, and then just leveraging overall sponsored product reporting data.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of ways that you can slice and dice just data and target things. But we found the most consistent success when doing these three different methods. And right here's an example of one account, just all sponsored display, using these three different examples. And we were able to drive about 26K at a 10% ACoS. So this is like, it's just another way to find incremental sales. So I highly recommend jumping on it ASAP. And the way that we break it down is, one, leveraging data from sponsored product ads. And then two, basically defending your own listings. So using the business report to target all of your own child ASINs. And then three, now going on the offense. This is really where the biggest potential is really using like third-party tools to find all of your direct competitors and advertising on them. So if you look at it, like the little graph on your right, that's kind of where I think is like the potential for growth within these three tactics. Like, defense is very small. I mean, you probably only have either a handful to a couple thousand SKUs, depending on you. Whereas like looking at your sponsored product search term report, you already have auto campaigns most likely. So you already probably have a lot of data around which ASINs work for your sponsored product ads or your sponsored brand ads, whatever they may be, that you can use right now. And that'll give you a lot more sales right off the bat. Yeah. And then there's finally offense, where it's like, all right, this new ad placement is awesome. How can we just reach as many like possible other direct competitors and steal sales away from them?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, I mean, like, when we're looking at leveraging sponsored products data, so maybe a good question to almost kick this off would be, if you're running sponsored product pack campaigns going against certain ASINs, do you think should you continue to run those when you're starting to run sponsored display, or are you just kind of paying for too many placements almost?
I mean, that's a tricky question because, like for us, we just look at, are we profitable? Are we still making profitable sales? If so, just take this to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at like the total ACoS, tacos, people call it,
Yep.
and you're seeing that your advertising spend is much higher than your total overall sales, then you may want to look for ways to decrease that. And what we're seeing right now is sponsored display is much more profitable than sponsored products.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're seeing that some of your sponsored product ads are just, pretty high ACoS, then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it may be worth it to just go ahead and pause some of those ones because you would rather put your money towards ads that are getting more profitable sales. That's the only time that I would say is a good time to pause campaigns like that.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I mean, I think of it a lot in the sense of it's not a direct comparison, but thinking about bidding on the same keywords for both sponsored products and sponsored brands. I mean, you may be advertising similar ASINs for sponsored brands as you are for sponsored products. And in some cases, it might make sense to focus only on one of the ad units based on the results that you're seeing. In other cases, it might make sense to continue to run both because as long as you're getting profitable results and it's working for your business,
Yeah.
then in that case, it definitely works. So I think just like you said, it's case dependent, but certainly Perpetua's initial stance is usually it definitely makes sense to be running both sponsor display and product attribution targeting on the same ASINs.
Definitely.
Cool. Talk about your campaign structure and how you get to your initial bid prices.
All right, cool. So this is like getting into the weeds now. Like, what do we actually do? How do we use the sponsored product data? And how do we use it in a way that we know that these ads that we launch for sponsored display are going to be profitable right out the gate? So this is what we do. So the campaign structure, what we do is we separate the campaigns for each of the SKUs that we're going to promote. All right. Now, if you have like a bunch of variations and not all of them drive sales, they don't do that well, then you can just go ahead and just combine the campaigns by parent ASIN, right? And then, so that's what we do. And also we break apart the campaigns based off of the ASIN quality that we're targeting, all right? So for example, let's say SKU campaign 1. So we're creating a campaign for this one specific SKU. Let's call it like shaker bottles, right? And then what we're going to do is the targeting, like the ASINs that we're going to target within them, we're going to target all of the converting ASINs that we find within the search term report. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. The next slide. Now I'm going to go back to it really quick.
Yep.
My bad. All right. So, and then what we're going to do is we are going to actually use for that campaign, we found that the way to be profitable out the gate is to actually use the starting bids as the SKU's historic cost per click. So you can easily find that out. Like if you're in Campaign Manager or wherever you're at, just to like filter campaigns by the SKU that you're about to create, and then just look at the CPC, and then whatever it is, use that as a starting bid for your sponsored display campaigns. That'll work out super well. All right. Now also we'll basically duplicate that campaign. So it's the same SKU, but we'll change out the targeting. And instead, this targeting will be all of the non-converting ASINs that we find within your sponsored product search term report. And the reason why, why would you target non-converting ASINs? The reason why is because this sponsored display placement just kicks ass so much, we find that we can drive profitable sales, even targeting these non-converting ASINs if we use the right bid. And so the right bid that we found is to actually use, again, the historic cost per click, but just 40% of that. So just times that by 0.4, and that'll give you like a really conservative bid that should be driving you profitable sales out the gate. And this is kind of just like a campaign example right there. So we would name it like the SKU that we're promoting, put in the research method, STR converting ASINs, and then like today's dates.
Cool.
But if you switch to the next slide. All right, so this is how you actually do it. So within, like for example, Campaign Manager, you just go to advertising reports, download as much of a date range as possible. So usually 60 days, but if you have previous search term reports that you downloaded from before, bonus, just take those and combine the data. You can get as much data as possible. And then step 2, just filter the campaign name by the SKU that you're promoting. So if you put the SKU name in the campaign name, that's like what we do, kind of better organize things. Just filter for the SKU that you're promoting, and then filter the search term column by B0 just to get all of the ASINs. And then right there for the 7-day total order, step 4, just filter by like only show converting ASINs or only show non-converting ASINs. And that'll basically give you two lists for all of those targets to then put within your new sponsored display campaign.
Cool. Cool. All right, so let's move on to like the defense portion. So when you're bidding on your own ASIN specifically and how you go about it.
Yeah. So we find that defense campaigns work really well, and it makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like on AdWords targeting branded keywords, right? Like, of course, it's going to be profitable, but we mostly do it just to kind of dominate our own market share and to not let other people steal our sales. Because as I'm about to get to in like the next slides, playing offense, we're just able to steal sales so much. So we don't want people to do that crap to us.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. So these defense campaigns, super profitable. I mean, 4% ACoS. Usually for defense campaigns, they're like maybe double than that. So just a very profitable way to defend, and it still grows sales.
Cool.
So the way that we structure things is that we create, again, a separate campaign per SKU. Per SKU. And then within each of those campaigns, we target all of our child ASINs. And the reason why we do that is just because we just want to make sure that we're taking all of the placements. And you could kind of slice and dice that information and be like, okay, only target things that are complementary or do upsells or do downsells. Yes, if you have all the time in the world, definitely do that. That'll probably get you even better results. But if you're strapped on time, strapped on resources, this is a quick and dirty way to be able to basically accomplish the same thing and to still accomplish the goal of driving more sales, not letting people steal your sales. And so what we do is targeting all of your own ASIN starting bids. Again, we use the historic CPC for the SKU that we're promoting. And that's our naming convention right there.
Sweet.
And so just a quick way to do that is, because I feel like I need to explain this, because some people only have like a handful of ASINs, so they're like, they know it by heart, but other of them have like thousands. I have one account that I manage that has 10,000 ASINs. So what you do is you just go to the reports, business reports, and then to the left-hand side, go to detail page sales and traffic, and click on that, and then download the Excel file for that. And then within column B, just highlight all the child ASINs, and that is going to be your list of just ASINs to just put within your sponsored display campaign.
Sweet. Well, I think before we move into the offensive part, I just want to switch gears a little bit and speak to, we got some people that are currently Perpetua users on the call, or maybe have been evaluating Perpetua in the past. And so maybe speaking a little bit to our approach when it comes to sponsor display and how we take a lot of what you just said there and allow you to execute it through the platform. So some of you may already know Perpetua is a goals-based platform, meaning what Perpetua is going to ask you to do is, for any given ad unit, is to set your target parameters, a target ACoS and daily budget. And then from there, it's going to execute and optimize your campaigns. So when we think about sponsored display, we frame them as opportunities within your existing sponsored product goals that you already have running. So if you have a sponsored product goal for either a single ASIN or a group of ASINs, and you're not yet running sponsored display, we would frame that as an opportunity for you to start running sponsored displays. So you would see opportunities here. I have 35. I have 35 goals running where I'm not running sponsored display, but I am running sponsored products. So we would frame that to you. Let's say this Crayola pencils goal that I have running. I want to start running sponsored display. I can click launch, and then it's going to ask me, okay, do I want to run both product targeting and retargeting? By default, they're both turned on. You can turn either of them off. And then you're just tasked with setting your target ACoS and daily budget for each of those different segments. The great part about how for product targeting specifically, it's going to build out that ASIN list for you that you're going to be spending money against, is if you go to your sponsored product goals that are already running. So let's say I click through this goal that's already been running. I click on targets to see everywhere where I'm already spending money. I can filter and see all of the ASINs that I'm spending money against as part of this sponsored product goal. By default, we're automatically going to take all of those ASINs and start bidding on them in your sponsored display campaigns that you're running for that goal. So you're going to automatically port over all that data, and as consistently as we're finding new ASINs, we're going to be filtering that in for you as well, and then continuing to optimize your bid price for each of those ASINs. So that's a little bit about how Perpetua goes about building out those campaigns for you and where we find our information and how we build it. So very similar strategy, slightly different approach, but hopefully both awesome results.
Cool.
Cool. Let's go back. Let's go back to your offensive tactic here, because I think this is a big one. Remember at the chart that you showed early, if I just zip back on here, this was a big one in your market chart here. It took up more than half the space. So let's talk about offensive tactics.
Yeah. So this is where I see the biggest potential at. And this is just a screenshot that I took like a couple of days ago, and we're still like in the beginning of August. So you could just see how just the sales, which is the orange line, is just scaling like crazy. And then mind you, the ACOS target for this client is 60%. I know I'm lucky, but it's just so much room for growth here. So that's why I'm really excited for this one right here. So offense is basically like, we want to target as many possible direct competitors as possible. And so what we do is we create a separate campaign for each SKU that we're promoting. Again, if you want to, then just combine all of the child ASINs for one parent ASIN within that. And then what we do is we actually use the SKUs historic CPC. I mean, that's just like the best starting bid to start off if you want to be like profitable, right? Like I'm sure if you have more aggressive goals, then go above that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we jump to the next slide. So for this, it's pretty simple. You want to identify all of your direct competitors. The more, the better. And what we do is there's a lot of tools out there. Some of them you just plug in your ASIN and it plugs out competitors. Some of them you put in the product title and it plugs out competitors. We actually use ones that use the product title. And so what I recommend is using like the root keyword within your product title. So for example, if you're selling this MacBook hard case, then out of all of the keywords in the product title, I think the most relevant ones to make sure that we're only showing direct competitors would be MacBook Pro 15 case, right? And so for example, like what we do is we kind of first figure out, all right, how many competitors are we going to get from this? And so like, here's an example. For this one, we'll get about 2,000. So it's like, all right, that's a pretty good amount, you know? And like, we always kind of skim through to make sure that, all right, there's no irrelevant people that are showing up here. And then we basically take that list of 2,000 competitors, again, using some type of tool that'll give you the child ASINs for those competitors, and then put those within a sponsored display campaign. And what we see right off the bat is usually those campaigns are profitable and they're driving much more sales than those other ones. But out of all the tactics, this tactic, while it has the most growth, you may need to check up on it, because even though it's going to be profitable, it'll be less profitable than like the other two methods that I mentioned. So higher risk, higher return.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Well, I think a great place to pause again and speak a little bit to how Perpetua as a tool can help you find some of those offensive opportunities. And so within Perpetua, you know, if I were to go back and click through on any sponsored product goal, and some people on the call may be familiar with this, let's say I click into this fogless shower mirror existing sponsored product goal. One of the things that we provide our users is a segment report. So it's going to break down for you automatically all of the competitor brands that you're spending money against, how much you're spending, how effective it is. And Perpetua doesn't need your input to say like, who are my competitors? It's constantly going to be finding those new competitors for you. So anytime through the auto campaign, it might be bidding on a specific ASIN that is a new competitor on the scene, maybe you didn't know about. It's going to funnel that data into this report here. And then you can easily see like, hey, maybe, I wasn't bidding on the Shavewell company before. So it looks like Perpetua has automatically pulled in those ASINs. I can click through, I can see the actual ASINs that it started to bid on. And you can feel really comfortable knowing that automatically, if we're seeing conversions on these, we're going to be building them into your sponsored display campaigns and then continuously trying to optimize the bid price there. So a little bit about how, as a third-party tool, Perpetua can certainly give you a bit of a leg up on finding those additional keywords.
Cool.
Or additional ASINs, sorry. But yeah, I think, if just kind of going back to the beginning, we've got some questions here, and I'm going to kind of address each of them. So for starters, recommended budget towards sponsored display out of your total PPC budget. So I guess this is probably different based on the size of the account, but what do you think is like a good rule of thumb here?
Yeah. So for my clients, like we like to We test a lot. Like we have hundreds, even thousands of tests that we're running at a time. And so because of that, we really need to throttle the budget in the beginning until we optimize the bids within those. So with that being said, our budgets range anywhere from like $8 to $20 per campaign. And then we're constantly checking those budgets to see, okay, have we optimized the bids yet? Is the campaign profitable? If so, scale it. If not, keep the same. Maybe even decrease it a little bit if it's really not profitable. So it really depends on you, how comfortable you are with testing. Are you running any other tests, right? And where are you at with your ACoS right now, right? Because if you're significantly over, then you may want to be a lot more conservative right now with this.
Gotcha. Cool. We've got a few questions coming in here about as well on finding ASINs for certain competitors. I know you spoke about third-party tools that you use to drop those in. I think a lot of those exist, and we talked a little bit about Perpetua. Is there ever a time where you're bidding on specific ASINs that you haven't gotten conversions on for sponsored products, and do see those significantly huge increase in results, and overall, should you just be expecting off the bat to not get that, to expect a lower ACoS on those ones that are more of an offensive strategy?
Okay, wait. So the ones.
Maybe I'll reframe it. So the ones that you're getting from a different tool, and I know some questions came in about actually finding those ASINs and lots of different ways to go about doing that. We could do a whole session on that. But once you've found those ASINs and you start bidding on them, one of the things you said is you may end up getting a higher ACoS because you haven't converted on those in the past. Is that something that you see pretty much every time that it's a higher ACoS, or do you sometimes see that, hey, this becomes one of your most profitable segments?
I mean, when I say higher ACoS, I mean it's still profitable because of the formulaic cost starting bid that we use. Mm-hmm. But it does start off with a higher ACoS compared to like the defense strategy or using the sponsored product data strategy. Gotcha. Right. So it is slightly higher, but it's still way below our ACoS targets for whatever SKU that we're promoting. Yeah. Gotcha. And I think the key in it is really using that formulaic starting bid, because you can waste a lot of money with sponsored display, especially with this offensive strategy when you're just basically spraying all of your direct competitors. I mean, if you have like a 3-star review on your product that you're promoting, you can show all day on these client on these products of your competitors, but they may not do well because of that. So that's why it's really important to use what I think is like the average cost per click for what you're already getting on sponsored products. Usually that starting bid results in a profitable ACoS off the bat.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have one question here. I'm actually not familiar with this term. I think I can understand off the bat what it likely means, but someone's asking if this is similar to the gold panning strategy. I'd imagine that based on what that sounds like, yes, it is, because you're essentially filtering out ASINs, you're trying out new things, and over time you're going to find some of those that are essentially gold for you. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit more conservative than the gold panning approach. The reason why, or at least what I'm showing right now, is because I'm saying like we use the product title to find as many direct competitors as possible. Whereas the gold panning approach, it's like targeting individual keywords, and some of them are so broad, you're going to be showing on crazy different results for that. But because you're bidding so low, it's profitable. I would say it'll be like gold panning if like you weren't only filtering for direct competitors. And for that MacBook case example, if you just use like maybe MacBook case, maybe even MacBook with a super low starting bid, maybe like 20% of your average cost per click, that may be some pretty good results right there. I'm gonna try that out. Thanks for the suggestion. Yeah. Here's a good one. I think this is a good question. So how do you go about getting a CPC for the defense ASINs if you haven't advertised on those ASINs before, and maybe you don't have any auto campaign data either? Yeah, well, if you've never done it before, man, you've never advertised a SKU and you want to do defense. That's interesting. What we had that situation one time before, and what we did, this is actually pretty recent, the past week. What we did was we used the average cost per click for similar SKUs within that account.
because you're going to be advertising basically on the same types of products. So the cost per click should be similar.
Gotcha.
If you don't even have that, then maybe just the average cost per click of the entire account, even if you have completely different products, I would test that out. But regardless, I would always start off more conservative just because I like being more profitable out the gates, and then just slowly increasing bids if they're not showing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Here's another question that I think is a good one. Say you're launching a new product. Does sponsored display make sense when you're launching?
I think absolutely, because it's at the end of the day, it's only going to increase your sales velocity, which helps your sales rank, which helps your organic rank. So I would say any single way that you can try to drive more sales during a launch is just going to be crucial, especially during that honeymoon period. So yeah, I would definitely jump on this one, especially because it's going to be one of the most likely profitable ways to drive sales.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so for your, I think on a similar note to that question, another one just came in asking more specifically about Perpetua, whether it's good for the launch stage. Short answer, yes. Long answer, we should definitely talk after. But moving on to another one of these, how many competitor ASINs should you put into each campaign? I think, Perpetua's view is campaigns are really just a container for ASINs. And so you shouldn't overthink maybe having too many in the same campaign if you're analyzing the data. But do you have any specific tactics that you use to only have certain amounts in each campaign?
Yeah, I mean, the max you could put within sponsored display is 1,000. So if we come up with more than that, then we'll just duplicate that, put a 2 at the end of the campaign name, and then put the next 1,000 in there. But yeah, for us, we really like to go big and then optimize and then fine tune, right? Now, again, we're working with brands that are making like 6 to 8 figures. Yep. So we want to learn quickly, optimize, and then dominate. Now, for an Amazon seller who is just starting out, maybe you don't have that budget. Maybe you need to be profitable out the gate. And with that, you need to be much more focused on like what could you actually drive a sale for? Which are like the most products that you would be better against, and then let's advertise against those ones. So taking more of like a sharpshooter approach.
Gotcha. Yeah. We got one more here, and I think this, unless a few more keep funneling in, maybe this will be our last one. But is there any time where you would recommend not using sponsored display in any capacity?
I would just say if inventory is low.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, to me, it'd be a similar answer as if when you would stop advertising. Period. If you're advertising, I think sponsored display absolutely fits into your strategy. You could be someone who's using DSP, never even heard of DSP. Definitely, sponsored display fits in one way or another, and is going to be a huge asset for everyone who's taking advantage of the first mover opportunity that exists on sponsored display right now.
Definitely.
Cool. I think this was awesome. I mean, any final thoughts that you want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I think that what you are listening right now is relevant to right now. And like we mentioned earlier, eventually the wave is going to come, and these methods and these recommendations aren't going to be delivering the same results. So I recommend jumping on these things ASAP before everyone else does.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean, if anyone has ever looked at the Perpetua blog page recently, we just did kind of a short blog on sponsored display versus DSP. Should I be running both? What's Perpetua's stance on it? And one of the main things that we underline is that here's our stance, but this is our stance right now. If there's one thing in this entire blog post that we feel most confident about, it's the idea that all of these ad units are going to continue to evolve, and making sure that you're most educated as possible is going to be your biggest success factor overall. The one thing I definitely reiterate with everyone that I think is just super important and can't be understated enough is just the simple line that at the end of the day, product targeting for sponsored display is just the simplest way for you to get that above the fold placement on any product detail page. No matter what other strategy you're doing, that's going to be number one. Cool. I want actually one more quick one in here, just between ACOS and ROAS. So like, do you use ACOS or ROAS to split them up? Definitely whatever kind of is your preference. They're just an inverse of one or the other. So between ACOS and ROAS is really just whatever you like to use as your measurement.
Definitely. Agree.
Cool. Well, this was awesome. We're definitely going to do this again sometime soon. Next time we've got an awesome topic that we want to chat about, we'll definitely dive back into it. I really enjoyed having you on today, Aaron, and couldn't appreciate all your knowledge and expertise more.
Same, man. It was epic. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll definitely send out a recording that will have all the information as well. So you can go back and have a look, share with other people that maybe should be interested, but didn't have the chance to join. So yeah, take care, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of the week and weekend.
Yeah. Bye. See ya.